Hi everyone. So in this video, we will be discussing what is good and what is bad stress. Now we're going to start off with acute stress, which is short-term stress. Now short-term stress is good for you, all right? And it's also good for immune system. And the reason it's good for immune system is when you have a viral or bacterial infection, this stress response is activated and then it releases adrenaline to go and combat that infection in your body. That's a good thing. So when you have those sniffles, immediately the warning bells go off. And that stress response does what it's been designed to do. Now, the second thing is focus. When you are stressed, you are hyper focused, hyper alert. So the focus, even though it's narrow, it's good. That means that if you have a deadline and you have a task that you need to complete, this is what you want, to be hyper alert, to be that focused. But unfortunately, you can't multitask, you can't think too big when it comes to this focus. You can only just focus on the thing that you want to do. So that's great. So that's good stress that when it's activated, it helps you manage whatever the issue is at that time. But the downside to having these stressful moments where you need to do task related stress, where you're up and down all the time, is that when you finally take a holiday, for instance, especially if you have a high pressure job and you take a holiday, you relax and you forget about everything, and that's when your immune system crashes because you have been yo-yoing up and down for so long that when you finally relax, everything just goes offline. So to avoid such things, we need to learn how to put brakes on our stress and not to have our stress move from acute stress, which is a short-term stress, to chronic, which brings us to our midterm stress. Midterm stress varies from a couple of weeks to a month or so. Now, that is stress that happens to many of us because sometimes we're facing situations that, we can't rectify or resolve within a matter of hours or days. So it might take us a while. This could be financial stress, this could be family related stress, school or work related stress. It's not a quick fix, and we might find ourselves like in that heightened stress levels all the time, which is not really good. So in this instance, when we've moved from just task related stress, where we're just stressing for a few minutes, for a few hours a day, a couple of times in a week, and now we've moved into stress where it's starting to be on a continuous basis. Now is the time for us to increase our stress capacity. We need that stress threshold that helps us to be able to deal with stress or challenges in our lives in a better way, where even though the stress response is activated on our body level, but our minds are still clear and we are able to make better decisions, and the stress does not cloud our minds. Now, how do we actually do that? How do we build that stress capacity? So there's a couple of ways you can build that. And one of those ways is to deliberately put yourself in those stressful situations that activate the stress response, that increases your heart rate, your respiration, and prioritizes blood flow to your muscles and all of that, and gears you up for movement and action. But when that happens, because you're deliberately doing that, you will have to then mentally and emotionally focus on learning how to calm your mind, learning how to breathe through those moments without panicking, because now you are deliberately putting yourself in stress to be able to build your tolerance of stress. And the best ways to do that is through exercise, where you learn to increase your heart rate to a certain level, not extreme levels, but levels enough that you're feeling your heart is beating really fast and you can feel that, you're under a bit of stress. And also taking cold showers is another one, or baths, depending on what you prefer. That also re-stresses your body. So learning to do that a few minutes a day, like taking that cold shower for like 2 minutes and then increasing it to about 3 or 4 minutes, not too much once again. You just want to really feel that stress in your body and then mentally remind yourself that you are safe and that, you can handle the stress. And by doing that and building that capacity, the things that used to feel like they're not manageable, when they come around, especially stressful situations, because we all know they don't happen just once. Sometimes you have the same stressful situation coming back twice. So when it happens, it just feels more manageable because your capacity to handle it is far more higher than the actual stress itself. And that's how we build capacity when we start having midterm stress levels. Now, when it comes to long-term stress, this is continuous stress where there is no end in sight. You are deep in it, you're in the dark, you don't see a way out. Now, this stress is a really hard one because it's starting to impact your health. Your brain functioning, you can't do anything, you're underperforming at work, your relationships are strained because you can't focus on anything else but the stress. Now, the best way to combat really the stress is social connection. Reaching out and spending time with people you can trust, really being vulnerable with those people. Because when we are with people we trust and we lean into that support, we release a hormone called serotonin. Now, serotonin is a mood stabilizer. It is responsible in heightening and putting you in a better mood. And it's also good for your immune system and the different brain functions, because as we know that long-term stress does affect your brain function. So it's important to really lean into that and also to use breathing tools, meditation, and learning different kinds of sleeping tools, because long-term stress does impact your ability to sleep well, which then in turn fuels the stress, because when you don't sleep well, you have poor judgment, it affects your coordination, and your response time is very poor. So if you're crossing the road and you haven't been sleeping well for a very long time, it takes a long time for your brain to recognize that there's a car coming in. Like your physical response is very poor because the message between your brain and your body is a little bit slower. So that is why it's important to really recognize when you have moved from short-term stress to chronic stress. And throughout those different levels, you must have tools that safeguard each level. So we will be diving into those tools in the next video. What tools you can use when you're experiencing stress in real time, what tools you can also use when you're experiencing midterm stress, and what tools you can use when you're experiencing long-term stress. So stay tuned for the next video.